There's a night you won't forget. You were lying in bed, scrolling past your own life like it belonged to someone else. Your job, your apartment, the version of you in last year's photos. And a quiet, almost embarrassing thought arrived. How did I end up here? That's not a breakdown. That's the first honest conversation you've had with yourself in years. And almost nothing meaningful in your life changes until you learn to keep having it. There's a fantasy almost everyone carries that change, a breakup, a phone call, a TED talk at 2 a.m. That story feels right. It isn't true. Real change doesn't snap. It shuffles. It arrives as it didn't even realize you were making. A reply you didn't send. A door you didn't open. A thought you finally noticed you've been thinking on repeat for 15 years. You don't transform. You compile. Each day, your choices, your reactions, the conversations you tolerate, the risks you avoid, they write a line of code into the version of you. That's slowly loading into existence. And the wildest part is you usually don't notice until wait, when did I start becoming this person? Long before you had opinions about money or love, you were watching. You watched how your parents handled conflict. You absorbed the rules of your household, what was safe to say, what earned love, what got you punished. You built a model of how the world works. That model kept you alive. The problem is you never upped. So now you're a 34-year-old making 6 figures, and some running the operating system of an 8-year-old trying not to upset their dad. Psychologists call this a schema. I call it the silent script, the invisible architecture of your life. It decides who you think you're allowed to love. It decides how much money you believe you deserve. It decides whether you see opportunities or threats in every new situation. The first act of real transformation isn't taking action. It's catching the script in the act. You don't have to destroy it. You just have to read it. For most of modern history, we were told the brain you die with. That was wrong. Your brain is closer to wet clay. Every thought you thinepeat physically reshapes the structure underneath your skull. This is called neuroplasticity, and it's one of the most liberating discoveries in modern science. Every time you catch an old thought and replace it with a new one, you're literally rewiring a circuit. The old pathway weakens, a new one thickens. Over time. The thought that used to fire autumn airtime. You are not stuck. You are underwired for the person. Yuri conscious choice is a vote cast for the new circuit. That's not a metaphor, that's biology. If growth felt like a warm bath, everyone would do it. It doesn't. It feels like being in a room where the furniture got rearranged while you slept. That's not a bug, that's the feature. Discomfort is what it feels like when your old identity is losing its grip. Your brain has a thermostat for who you are, and the second you act in a way that doesn't match its reading, the alarm G. That's why every time you try to change, you hear a VOIC. This isn't you. You'll never stick with this. Who are you kidding? That voice isn't wisdom. It's the old software running a compatibility check. The goal isn't to feel okay again. The goal is to get okay with not feeling okay while the new version of you gets installed. Almost every self-improvement plan starts with action. Money, you try it, you last a week, you fall back, not because you're weak, because you skipped step 1. Behavior doesn't create identity. Identity creates behave. If you still see yourself as someone who's bad with your brain will find clever ways to sabotage every system you build, because the system violates who you believe you are. But shift the identity first, even slightly, and the behavior arrives almost automatically. You don't say, I have to save. You say, I'm the kind of person who respects future me. You don't say, I should journal. You say, I'm someone wife. One is a rule, the other is a rebrand, and your brain or the new identity like a lawyer building a case. There's a kind of stuck that willpower can't touch. It's the person who reads every self-help book, listens to every podcast, builds the perfect morning routine, and still feels exactly the same inside. Why? Because underneath all of it, there's a quiet lie. Tess, I'm actually fine. Maybe next year. And at least I'm self-aware. These sound reasonable. They are not. They're perfect. Transformation has a prerequisite most people skip. Ready. Not the cruel kind, the kind that's gentle, specific, and away. Here's what I actually feel. Here's what I've been pretending isn't true. Here's what I'm afraid of. Once you name the lie out loud, it starts to lose its out. Question it, eventually ignore it, but you can't argue with something you won't admit. Almost every meaningful change you've ever made came with a phase that had no name. The months after the breakup when you didn't recognize yourself. The year after quitting the job when you weren't sure if. The strange season of recovery when something was clearly different, but you couldn't explain it. Psychologists call this a liminal space, from the Latin word for threshold. You are no longer who you were. You are not yet who you'll become. You are in between. This phase is not a detour. It is the journey. It's where your brain rewrites the story it tells about you. Every new sentence you say about yourself, spoken with feeling, starts laying down new hardware. I'm someone who follows through. I'm someone who can handle this. I'm someone worth knowing. You don't have to believe them at first. You just have to. Eventually, your brain stops checking. If you remember nothing else from this video, remember these 3 things. 1. Change is not an event. It's a slow, invisible renegotiation of who you believe you are. 2. Discomfort is not the enemy. It's the sound the old self makes while it's being updated. 3. You don't become someone new. You remember who you were before the world told you who to be. If something landed today, leave one honest sentence in the comments. Not a quote, not a performance, just one true thing. And if you know someone standing at the threshold of their own transformation, send it to them. Sometimes the only thing a person needs is to feel seen at the moment they're ready to begin. Thanks for paying attention to your own life. That alone, Rion. Now go be the person future you is already proud of.